Hello, welcome back to the Hailey podcast. I am your host, Hailey Gamba. How is everyone doing today? I'm not going to lie to you guys. This week is such a busy week for me. I'm like a little bit stressed. I'm not going to lie. I'm also so annoyed that I do not have a hair appointment booked yet. For those who are watching me on YouTube, then you guys know I have a slick back because whenever I do not have my quick weave in, I don't know what to do with myself for the simple fact that just having a quick weave, which is very similar to having like a sew in, it's just a way for me to wake up and start my day and not have to worry about my hair, but it's not the same with your natural hair if you have hair that just doesn't do the same thing. So I've been doing like a lot of slick backs. I've been blowing out my hair and wearing it straight as well. And I love it. I love my natural hair. It's just, it takes so much longer to do. And I just don't have the time in the day to do it. It's just driving me crazy. So I'm going to harass my hairstylist and hopefully she will just give me a last minute appointment. This is usually how I book with her, which is pretty fucked up, but I love her to death. Shout out to Touch by Tasha Mack. She's the best in the game. She's the best in the game. She's my favorite person ever. And she always slays my hair. Today's episode is a little bit different than my usual episode because this is more of me sharing a vulnerable side to myself along with a little bit of a story time, but then there's also going to be tips. And this particular episode is about surviving a contrarian. Now, a little bit of context as to why I wanted to create this episode. I want to just bring us back a few months. I was sitting in bed and there was a person talking about contrarians and how they're always like opposing everything you say. They always find a way to argue with you. And they were giving a lot of examples. And I remember just sitting in bed being like, wait, that's the word for what I've dealt with in my life? No effing way. Because I'm going to be real with you guys. I don't necessarily know all of like the terminology for all these different types of personality traits or disorders or things that people have. So I've never walked around saying like, oh my God, I've dealt with a professional contrarian because I didn't necessarily have the word for it. This is why it's important to read because you learn these words like when you read and you become more well-versed. But anyways, that's not the point. And I remember them just kind of dissecting what it means to be in conversation with a contrarian. And it clicked for me like, wait a minute, this is the toxic family member that I cut off a few years ago, finally. And I want to share my own personal story of surviving a contrarian and what it does to your life in the stages of like being in the grips of someone like this, being in close proximity to someone like this, possibly this person being in your family. So it makes it more impactful, all of the harm that they cause. And then removing them from your life and seeing how beautiful life becomes when you no longer have this type of darkness over your authenticity and over how you choose to be. A contrarian is a person who opposes every single thing that you say. They have this obsession with being so correct that it's insufferable to be around. They usually are very inquisitive in a harmful way and argue just for the sake of arguing. And they are very antagonistic. Like they want to get a rise out of you. They want to have this perceived superiority complex where they're always right, where they're always correct, where they need to criticize in order to show their correctness and show their wisdom or whatever. And it is so annoying to have this person in your life, especially if it's supposed to be a connection worth building with. A lot of people have contrarians as family members, as partners, and as friends, where every time you get together, they're always trying to find a way to argue a point, to have a rebuttal, to have an answer for everything, to always be right, to always bring things back to themselves. And they are the center focus of every conversation. So if you even try to challenge a contrarian, they are now the victim of your reactionary behavior. They are now like, oh my God, why are you doing this? Like, why are you being so like crazy? Like, I'm just trying to tell you what it is. And it's like this combination of like a professional contrarian mixed with a histrionic personality disorder. And histrionic personality disorder is like people who have very like obnoxious emotions and like facial expressions and traits to something that doesn't require that type of like reaction. So for instance, let's just say you were to challenge a contrarian and say, oh, like, I don't really agree with that. Like, that's not really that. And then they're like, well, rebuttaling you and arguing with you. And then you react and go, okay, you know what? That's like enough. Like, you have to stop. And then they're like, oh my God, what is going on? You're so like, and it's just like this very obnoxious reaction and victimhood that just feels animated in spirit and disingenuous. And it's very exhausting having someone like this in your life. Now, I want to go back a few years before I have removed access because it was necessary for me personally to remove this person's access to my life, because if I didn't, I would be a very unhappy person. And I feel like I was not capable of stepping outside of myself and seeing this person's faults without being able to completely remove myself emotionally from it, especially when it's family. It's very difficult. No matter how much emotional regulation you practice, no matter how much you try to mature, being around certain people is just insufferable. It's impossible. It requires so much work that it becomes not worth it. So let's take myself back a few years when I did not even know what a contrarian was, what somebody with histrionic personality was, and what a narcissist was. Because a lot of these things tend to go hand in hand. And a lot of the times people will have multiple different types of personality traits. And this is not to demonize these traits. It's just to become aware of them so that you don't personalize people's behaviors towards you and make it about you and then invalidate your own self-worth and your own self-acceptance. When I was younger, being around a contrarian made it very difficult to be authentic, to be someone who can be silly and fun, and dare I even say wrong? Because yes, it's wonderful to have a discussion with someone and be right, but it's also okay, especially when you're growing up and just in general, to be wrong about things. But when you're wrong around a contrarian, they're obsessed with proving a point. They're obsessed with arguing a point with you. And it makes it very difficult to feel like you can be authentic and to learn because they're not teaching, they're talking at you. I think what has allowed me to close certain chapters of my life was getting the answers that I feel like I needed in order to move past this. And the answers were what a contrarian really is and how it impacts you and how it has nothing to do with you. A lot of the times, people who are contrarians tend to be very insecure, deeply insecure. And internally, they have an inferiority complex. But externally, the way that they show it is by having a superiority complex. They don't want to come off ignorant. They want to have a certain amount of correctness. And it's just something that you realize the second you're around it. It's like saying something along the lines of, oh my God, it's so hot out today. And it's not really that bad. Or, oh, the sky is blue. Oh, it's more like turquoise. Or, oh, I was like 5 minutes late today. I'm so sorry. You were more like 15. And every single thing requires a rebuttal from them. They're very quick and witty about it too. Like you don't even get your last bit of your sentence out before they jump down your throat. And this was very harmful to grow up with. And this is not a person that lives in my immediate home, but it's somebody who was a part of my, family dynamic, a part of my circle, a part of my core people. And every single holiday, get together, and moment with this person, you had to almost brace for battle. And you had this angst about it. You would rehearse in the mirror different ways to respond to different things because my contrarian family member was inquisitive in a nasty, nice way. They were always offended, or they would have like a very antagonistic way of speaking where they would say something that's kind of inappropriate, but they would package it in a way that seemed educated, that if you reacted to it, you would look crazy. In childhood, you're really navigating these different personalities and not understanding the reasoning behind it. And closing these chapters has been so liberating for me because it allows me to validate my experience without shaming others. I don't feel in this part of my life to point the finger at people who have done me wrong and shame them. But I more so speak about things from a place of identifying how toxic that environment was and how I now deserve to validate my own experience by educating myself on these traits and navigating them properly so that I don't get caught in the crossfire with somebody like this again. I think a lot of women who possibly grew up in really healthy households tend to be great victims to a contrarian husband because they never had someone in their life who opposed all their views, who attacked their creativity, who was always, making a comment about everything. So when they do end up meeting a person like that to marry, they don't necessarily see it at first and they blame themselves because they never knew someone like that. Now, for me, because I grew up around a contrarian and I saw what that was like, and then I removed myself from that inner vibe and I went out and I made friends and I built connections, I realized how abnormal that behavior was, that I can now be more discerning about allowing a contrarian in my life again. I will not be. They are the most insufferable people to build connection with because they do not want to build connection with you. The connection is contingent on them being powerful and you being okay with them being antagonistic to you. Now, I think a lot of the times people can think that a contrarian is someone who plays devil's advocate, but I think that there's actually a major difference here. Somebody who plays devil's advocate is usually trying to understand a perspective, the opposing perspective, and they are able to debate in a healthy way. It's not debating for the sake of arguing, but it's for the sake of seeing other perspectives. They're able to have a more wide view of what's going on. And even you could be having a conversation with someone who plays devil's advocate, and they could be technically agreeing with you, but they also can say, yeah, I do agree with you, but I can see how somebody from a different lifestyle, background, environment could feel differently. They're able to really step outside of themselves and view different perspectives and value them. Where a contrarian argues for the sake of arguing. It's a power dynamic. It's a lose-lose for the person that's having conversation with them. They will even reword certain statements that you've said, claim it as their own, and say you were wrong, even though you literally just said that exact same thing to them, just differently, but they wanted it to be said this way instead. And that is technically emotional manipulation. It is really, really, really hard to be a happy, healthy person around someone like this consistently. A contrarian cares more about correcting you than having a connection with you. And that is upsetting. It's upsetting. It's traumatic, especially if you live with someone like this. And it just feels like you're always on guard. And they will always take the opposing view of what you're saying. So if you say something, they have to side with whatever's the opposition. And it feels like, oh my God, my back's against the wall. This person fucking hates me. And I don't know how to navigate conversation with this person. And in early developmental years for myself, I blamed myself. I thought I was hard to get along with. I thought that I was too colorful for certain people. I blamed myself for being emotional, sensitive, reactionary. But in reality, it was more so of a reaction to someone constantly attacking my entire existence. It was feeling like that every time I'm in conversation with this person, I need to brace for impact. I need to understand that I am going to be criticized. I'm going to have something pulled apart about me. And they are always wanting to see the worst in you. Yes, a contrarian is someone who opposes you. But for me, my contrarian was more than just someone who opposed me. It was someone who wanted to make an enemy out of me. Now, I also want to say this. There are so many different types of contrarians, right? My particular contrarian was, in my opinion, very nasty nice. But you could be in conversation with a contrarian where they disagree politely to the point where you don't feel like it's appropriate to react to their opposing view because it doesn't come off like they're trying to attack you or make you feel bad, but that they're just different than you. So like a perfect example is like, oh man, it's been hot all month. I can't wait for it to get cooler. And then they'll say like, really? I don't think so. I love summer. I think it's fine. And then you'll say something like, oh, I made this really amazing salmon dish yesterday. It's truly my favorite fish. It's cut so well and, it tastes really flavorful. Yeah, I guess it's okay, but I honestly prefer flounder. And it can be as simple as things like that, where it's like this constant need to disagree. But sometimes you're kind of trying to gauge like, okay, is this worthy of me calling them out? Because sometimes it's not so blatant and disrespectful. Sometimes it really is just somebody who is in constant disagreement with you. And the truth is, that can be fine, but it's still insufferable. It's still annoying to be around. It's still very difficult to just relax around this person. And I also feel like they're trying so hard to not give up their position of power. So if you were in a constant argument with this person, they're not letting go. They're not letting up. Even if somehow you found a way to create common ground, they still feel like it's not what they wanted the original conversation to be around, which is so weird. And I just think that what this does to your psyche as a person who's in proximity to this person for a long time is it makes you either A, kind of become a contrarian yourself because this is the only way that you've ever known how to create connection, or B, you think everybody is going to attack you, and every time you try to build connection outside of this person, you're an unhealthy, unstable person because you think that everybody is going to attack you. You can't be yourself. You can't be vulnerable. You can't be authentic. And you just feel like every connection has an expiration date because this person can also do other manipulation tactics like silent treatment or stonewalling or breadcrumbing or any type of emotional manipulation that makes you feel unworthy, insignificant, and like you're not seen and you're not heard. So for me personally, the contrarian that I had in my family, how it would go is this. They would oppose me. I would argue my point. They would be the victim to the argument. Now you're the one that has to say sorry or they're not speaking to you. And then every moment after that, they have quite an attitude and a snooty vibe to them that you owe them this very lengthy, deep meaning apology. And sometimes you do it because you just want to be good with this person. But I know for me, and this is probably my pride speaking, a lot of the times I knew I didn't do anything wrong. And it felt like, yes, I technically could apologize to move forward, but when you realize that this person is never going to change and things are going to always be this way, moving forward doesn't even really feel that appealing anymore. And I think that that's what happened for me when I hit my 20s. So I dealt with this person all of my childhood. I went through different stages of reactionary behaviors where first I felt like I was being silenced. Then I started to get a voice as I got older. I used my voice incorrectly because a lot of the times when we discover our voice, we don't know how to master it. We don't know how to have a healthy debate or discussion with someone because we're so used to not saying anything at all. And then when I hit my 20s, I was so emotionally exhausted from doing that especially when I moved out and I moved away from this person, I was really able to create a healthy environment for myself and make more friends and build more connection that I was like, oh, like I really don't need this person in my life, like literally at all. Literally at all. Like they're not a part of my immediate family anyways. And even if they were, I still wouldn't deal with it. But like, it just felt like the more I became self-actualized and mastered myself and built other connections and became like more excited about life, the less I felt like I had room and space for this person in my world. Now, I kind of want to highlight what I said prior, which was that when you're dealing with a contrarian, a lot of the times you can either become one or feel like everyone is one. So I think for a little while, and I'll be very honest, because I'm really good at that these days, okay? Like I'm very good at being open, I should say. There was a time in my life where I was argumentative, where I was possessing contrarian traits because I always had those conversations with people I spoke to. The contrarian being a part of my life, I'm thinking this is how conversation flows. So now I need to embody what it's like to be correct, to be right, to be powerful, to be someone who just dominates an entire conversation. And what that did was it gives you temporary relief of not feeling inferior. But long term, what it does is it doesn't allow you to build true, authentic connections with people. And you will burn a lot of bridges with people that you do enjoy because you rather be right than be happy. I made sure that I never did that again once it clicked for me that I want to live a happy life, not a correct life. I don't need to be right all the time. I don't need to dominate every conversation. I don't even need to be the smartest person in the room. I actually prefer not being. I love learning from others. I love being around people who are confident. I love being around people who even share different opinions about things than I do. And we can have a healthy discussion, a healthy debate that doesn't end in severing ties or demeaning one another or putting each other down, whatever it is. Where with a contrarian, it feels like you're going to be discarded at any point. You feel discarded, you feel used, you feel abused. I just could not deal with it anymore. I felt really relieved when I removed this type of company from my world. Every time I would see them after I started building connections on my own, I became less interested in playing into their antics. I think for a long time, I would argue with this person to showcase my integrity, but I realized that it's all a game for someone who's antagonistic like this. They want you to show your emotions when speaking with them. They want you to feel attacked. They want you to feel like you need to build a case. And the best way to nurture yourself and have self-preservation when dealing with someone like this, if you're going to keep them in your life, is to practice the deep technique. This technique you use on a lot of narcissistic people and just people with different types of personality disorders that make you feel less than. So the deep technique essentially stands for you don't defend, you don't engage, you don't explain, and you don't personalize. This is how you're going to soothe your own self and your spirit. So if you do have to be in conversation with someone like this, you don't fall apart. You don't want to defend yourself to a person who is going into the discussion with the intention of not building connection, but of just being right. You can't defend yourself to someone like that because they already have made up their mind before they even opened their mouth. You don't engage. Do not engage with somebody's antagonistic behavior. You are giving them the fuel that they need to continue the fire. If you just disengage, remove yourself and say, you know what, you're right, and walk away, they now have to come up with a whole nother conversation to bring up that's going to allow you to even speak with them. Because if you're very short to the point and you don't engage with their antics, they have nothing to talk about because you're not actually doing anything to them, but you're just not giving them what they need to be this type of person. You don't explain. You don't explain yourself to people who don't want to understand. And then the last one, which is the most important one, is you don't personalize. When you personalize somebody's behaviors towards you, you give them so much power. And if I could go back in time and teach my younger self anything, it would be to not allow somebody's trauma, traits, bad behavior impact how I felt about myself because it had nothing to do with me. And if I were to speak with my inner child today, I would say a lot of the bad things that adults did to you have nothing to do with you. It have everything to do with them, their own insecurities, their own issues, their own unresolved trauma. And I wouldn't have allowed it to affect my energy and my emotions so much because I really did internalize so many things. I was very sensitive to a lot of subjects and I felt like I did not feel loved and appreciated in spaces where people did this to me. So that's a technique that I would recommend to follow when engaging with a person like this. But if I am being so freaking honest with you guys, the best thing you can do for yourself is remove their access from your life. It feels so liberating, validating, and it feels like a release. And I didn't even know that that was possible, because I think when I first removed access, I was very angry because I don't like when somebody makes me feel like I have to make a tough decision because they are constantly disrespecting my boundaries. And I hate having to be the one that initiates dismissing someone, but I will do it if I have to. And this particular person, I gave ample chances to, for the simple fact that they're family. Okay. They're family. You're going to give chances. And I think you also kind of learn generationally through your parents, like, to just deal with certain people because they're family. And I think for me, what I did was I broke that generational trauma and curse. And I said, I'm not going to be dealing with anybody that I don't want to deal with. I'm not going to have anybody in my inner life that is harming it, that is creating an aura and a presence that feels uncomfortable and like I'm not able to be genuine. And that's where I decided to draw the line. At first I was angry, but then the more that time passed, I felt a relief. I felt lighter. And then my perspective and perception of people changed. I once thought that everybody would jump down my throat and make me feel like I have to defend myself, where now I realize that I am heard and seen in a lot of my connections. And that healed a huge part of my life and my heart. I felt like I always needed to exhaust myself and get better at vocalizing my thoughts and trying to find ways to articulate myself best to appeal to this person. And I think what it taught me, by the way, because I don't ever want to say that you learn nothing from reacting to certain triggers and trauma, but I think what it taught me was how to be a better communicator. I think I'm way better at communicating than a lot of people, for the simple fact that I had emotionally abusive communicators in my life for a long time that made me feel unseen, unheard, and not respected, that I wanted to improve my own communication skills so that I can move the needle forward in relationships and connections in all areas of my life. I will never tolerate a man who always finds something wrong, always has something to say, always has a comment, always opposes me, where some people who have never had an antagonistic contrarian in their life wouldn't even know to look for those problems. I know when somebody is opposing me. I know when somebody is trying to battle with me. I'm not dealing with it. Not even if it's simple, because it starts off small. Oh, the sky's blue. It's turquoise. It's dinner time. Girl, it's only 5 p.m. It's barely dinner. Oh, I did this yesterday and it was so amazing. Oh, it was okay. Oh, I really don't like going to that bar. It's so stuffy. It's not really that bad, but the drinks take forever. It's just so annoying and insufferable. Everything you say gets argued. It gets outshined. It gets overpowered. And it's ridiculous. It's annoying. It's hard. And I just don't like it energetically in my life. So a couple things that have improved since removing this person's access from my life. Holidays became better. I think that, when you show up to certain holiday events and a person like this is always there, you're always bracing for battle and you're always trying to find a way to get ahead of it. And I have just completely removed them from my world. This person still exists, but they do not exist here. So my holidays got better. They actually became joyous. I think that every holiday was annoying for me for a while. I actually hated the holidays because I had to see this person, where now I don't see this person on the holidays, so I can enjoy them. I can let my hair down. I can be myself. I can be authentic. I'm not being yelled at. I'm not being argued with. So that's number one. Number two is I can be my silly and authentic self and not feel like it's being demonized, attacked, or treated poorly. I also feel like I can build really great connections with people. I can also identify when somebody is a healthy connection for me. I also give people the benefit of the doubt. I do not feel this incessant need to be right. And that was something that took time. It took years. It took practice, because I think when you start to find your voice, you're excited to know more things and to say more things. But for me, what is way more important than being right is being happy, is enjoying connection. And if you're always arguing with people and your peers and always needing to seem smarter and better and superior, you're not able to build genuine connection and friendship and have like a happy, cohesive, flowing conversation. And I much rather that than an argumentative one. So now I just feel so much more free, and I'm so grateful that you guys have given me the space to share my story with you guys and all of the discoveries I've had. And this is not to demonize a contrarian type, but it's just for me to share why I cannot keep them in my inner circle. It just is very just uninspiring, and it feels like a dark cloud constantly. I hope that this validated something that you maybe are going through, or just kind of allowed you to build your discernment around what to look for when it pertains to making connections down the line and who you should marry, who you should be friends with, who you should keep around you. These types of personality types really do create a lot of impact. They do. And you have to be super mindful of that. So yeah, thank you so much for giving me the space to share my story. I want to do Hail Mail before we wrap up, where I essentially answer one of your guys' questions before the episode is over. So let me just go to my DMs and see what you guys wrote me. Okay, somebody asked how I feel stepping into my late 20s. I want to do an entire episode about this topic because it's so amazing. I feel a different sense of calmness, of relief, of just self-actualization. I just have never felt more myself. I feel wiser, better, stronger, and just, I really do like myself. And I think before I liked myself, but I think it was coming from a place of like faking it till I make it, where now it's real. Like I've seen what I've done. I've seen what I'm capable of, and I have seen just who I can transform to. And it just gives me so much confidence for the future. So yeah, I'm excited to talk about that. But really entering your late 20s it's just a beautiful experience, because you just realize that there were a lot of things you did not know. There were a lot of things that you didn't know, that you never experienced, that you didn't understand. And you just get a clearer understanding of everything that's happened in your life. You get to close a lot of chapters. You get to really feel liberated and validated about certain things. And then you also can just release a lot too, which is amazing. Okay, guys, that is the end of today's topic, all about surviving a contrarian. Make sure to send this to a friend or a family member, or just anyone that you think would really benefit from this episode. Also, rate the podcast, give it a big thumbs up on YouTube, give it a 5-star review. I love having you guys here. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, everyone. Mwah.
Pioneer.